Well, it's been a while since I've done a devotional. Make sure that my hair is done properly here. Anyway, um, as you well know, I probably have told you that I've had surgery on my eyes, cataract surgery, which is very interesting. Somebody poking in your eyeball is a little different, quite challenging. But one of the things that has happened as a result of that surgery is that I see things differently now. Things are much clearer than they used to be, it has its advantages. It also has some setbacks, some things that you didn't used to notice, now you notice, such as dust and dirt that just simply didn't really appear to you prior to that time. I remember when we were moving Mom's stuff. Now, my mother, talk about clean. There was no one that spent more time cleaning than she did, and her house was always immaculate. But as she got older, I often wondered, I thought perhaps energy. It didn't stop her from cutting the grass and things such as that. But she just probably couldn't see it. Now, that reminds me of the blind man, which I've always thought to be an interesting story. In Mark chapter 8, the verses of verse 22 to 26. And you remember that they bring this blind man and they ask the Lord to heal him. And he takes him outside the city and he spits upon his eyes, which is a form of medicinal healing. Back in that day, in that time frame, they considered that a form of medicinal help. I don't know how they considered it to be so, but they apparently did. And he laid his hands on him and he prayed and asked, well, what do you see? And the truth is, he said, first and foremost, that I just see men, but they walk around as trees, and I don't really, I can't see clearly. So Jesus lays his hands on him again, and he prays, and he asks, well, what do you see? And he says, I see everything clearly. I want you to think about that, because in this brief devotional, we spend most of our life learning to see things as the Lord wants us to see them. We listen to how everybody else views everything. If you listen to cable news, you certainly get a lot of opinions regarding politics or the events of the world and things such as that. Everybody's got an opinion today. No lack of that. But do we see everything as the Lord sees it? One of the things that has interested me, and I think that these will be topics that I'll speak to in classes, short classes, but on Saturdays in the School of Urban Ministry, is how does the Bible relate, first of all, to Israel? Does God even care about Israel? There's much of the church that doesn't believe that God has much concern or any more concern over Israel than he does any other nation in the world. I disagree. That doesn't mean that every decision they make or the politics of Israel is something to be verbatim accepted. But did God make a covenant with Israel? I think the Bible's pretty clear that he did. And that means that they're going to stick around, whether we like it or not, because God said that they're going to stick around, that God has a plan for them. I think it's pretty clear, by the way, that they seem to be the centerpiece of all the troubles of this world. Even the war that we're now struggling with in Iran has to do with Israel. And I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination that Israel is, that we're simply, how can I say it, a tool that they're using. But truthfully, Israel is, Iran despises Israel. Why? Did you ever think about why? Just why? Why does Hamas? Why do they despise Israel so? Why does the Lebanese despise Israel so? Why did Syria despise Israel so? Why is there such tension? It comes down to who they say that they are in terms of the relationship that God has entrusted to them and what God has given to them in terms of his recognition. It really can't be argued any other way. You can't say that they're, deserving of all the scrutiny and hatred that they get, because if anything, they've been the recipient of it. Anyway, this person, like many of us, we don't see things clearly. I would venture to guess that in terms of many of the issues of our culture, we still see men walking about as trees. We don't have a clear understanding of these issues: sexuality, identity in terms of sexual identity, many other issues that just simply aren't clear to us when the Bible is very clear. And God has been very specific regarding our relationships with one another and how we view ourselves, our sin, what the world tells us that we are, the reason that we do what we do. All of these things have to do with, if there's any confusion, have to do with a lack of understanding of how God sees these things. This is why, the entrance of your word gives light in Psalm 119, 130. It gives understanding to a naive or a simple person. So many of us, and myself included, oftentimes we view things in a very simplistic way because we haven't gotten to know what God has to say through his word about these things. You'll notice that when the Lord laid his hands on him the second time, he said, I see clearly now. I see very distinctly. I would correlate this in many ways with what the Lord said to Peter in Luke 22 and verse 31 and 32. Satan desires to sift you as wheat. In other words, he wants to keep you uninformed. He wants what happens in the world around you to have such an impact on you that you don't have any time to get to know who God is regarding the issues of your life. But he says, I have prayed for you. Thank God we have a Savior that ever lives to make intercession. And once you turn around, the word converted, once you turn back, once you start looking at me or looking to me, then you can strengthen the brethren. Think of, without being judgmental or critical, the impact that we could have on the lives of others just simply because we know him. We know him. And hopefully we don't have to go through cataract surgery just to be able to see that. Until next time, friends, God bless you.